90% of startups fail. Now, depends on who you quote on the source. Maybe the number's 85. I've even seen it as high as 98. 90% of startups fail. Now, why would I start a talk to try to inspire and help budding entrepreneurs with such a depressing statistic? Because it's a reality. And the simple fact is, we have to face realities. And what we're really trying to do is make sure that you don't become part of this statistic. What are the things that you can do to be part of the 10% that don't fail? To do that, why don't we look at some of the reasons that startups fail? Now, again, depends on who puts the statistics together, but here are the common reasons startups fail. You might run into some legal problems. There's always going to be operations problems, and I would debate that it's probably actually a much higher percentage than 2%, but nevertheless, it depends on who pulls the statistics and how they measure things. Technical problems definitely can contribute to the failure of a business. Finance problems, managing the money, cost control, right? Or having access to funding to be able to have the right runway to make your business successful. Team problems, having the right mix of partners, hiring the right people, knowing when to fire people that don't belong can be a significant contributor to the failure of a business. Marketing problems. Marketing's hard, man. Like it really is. And getting the right marketing and spending the right amount of time and energy and really getting the message across is a big source of failure for businesses. And then this other category of product market fit. This big one, that making sure that your product, your service, your product actually solves a problem for a potential customer. Now, the reality is we could try to create a presentation that tries to address all of these things. And that's really what the Startup Lab is about, is providing you with the education and the resources and the access to information to try to address some of these problems. What I wanted to do today is try to simplify these problems to identify some core leadership and management skills that you can employ in your business to try to avoid running into these problems. So what I wanted to do is try to simplify these problems down to essential core leadership and management skills. So what is that simplification? Well, as I look at these reasons, what I really see are two primary reasons for business failure. And it comes down to bad decisions and poor communication. Now we can argue what the mix is, whether that mix is 60 a 60-40% split or a different split, but at the end of the day, this fundamental cause of failure in business really comes down to these two reasons. Maybe the split's 50-50 or 70-30. It's really neither here nor there. At the end of the day, all of those reasons for failure come to our ability to make decisions the right way and communicate effectively. Or if you think about business failure, 60% bad decisions, 40% poor communication. So, what am I here to do to try to help you do that? Well, I'd like to try to figure out a way that I can give you some advice based on my experience working in large businesses for a good chunk of my career and now consulting with small businesses to try and identify what are some of the tools that you can employ to avoid making these bad decisions, to avoid poor communication. And I thought, since we really are talking about how to avoid making bad decisions and how to have better communication in business, I'd start with a very simple definition of what a business is. And the simplest definition that I've been able to come up with to define what is a business, it is the simple exchange that you create some perceived value for your customer, for your potential customer. You create perceived value, and in return, they give you enough money that you make a profit. The exchange of value. They give you money, you do something for them. You give them a product that's to them worth more than the money they gave you, or at least as much. And for you, that it was enough money that you were able to make a profit in order to provide that product to your customer. Exchange of value. That's what business is. So defining what a business is a good starting point, but then understanding what makes up a business is the next logical understanding. Because if we understand what makes up a business, what are the essential components of a business, maybe we'll be able to make better decisions when it comes time to making our business successful. And the best definition that I've ever come across of what makes up a business, and one of the things that you'll probably see throughout my talk today is I really do like to simplify things. If I was to quote Albert Einstein, I try to make things as simple as possible, but not too simple. In other words, I really wanted to make sure that I'm identifying the things that truly make up a business. And to do that, I'm going to leverage Lee Iacocca. Now, I learned this particular quote from Lee Iacocca about 25 years ago. I was a junior manager working for a company that fortunately used to send me to regular leadership training. But there was this quote that the instructor at the time continued to use every single time we went to one of his sessions. It was this quote from Lee Iacocca. And if you don't know who Lee Iacocca is, he's one of America's most famous businessmen. Why? Yes, while he was at Ford, he helped create the Ford Mustang. He was responsible for sales and marketing at Ford, and he actually was a big participant in the design of the famous Ford Mustang that was the backbone of Ford for quite some time. He was so successful at Ford, he eventually became the CEO. After leaving Ford, he then went on to become the CEO of Chrysler. Now, when Chrysler hired him as a CEO, Chrysler was about to go bankrupt. They were losing over $2 billion a year. Lee did a great job and turned the company around in a very short period of time. That within 3 years, the company went from being in the red, $2 billion a year, on the verge of bankruptcy, to earning a profit in excess of $3 billion a year. Complete 180-degree turnaround. While he was there, he's also the creator of the Dodge minivan. So that Caravan, the classic iconic minivan, we can blame Lee Iacocca for inventing the minivan. So the father of the Mustang and the minivan and the architect of the turnaround of Chrysler, he had a quote to describe what a business is made up of. And his quote, all business operations come down to three things: people, product, and profit. So the people working in the business, obviously, we're talking about the people, the partnerships with the people that we rely upon in order to create the product that our customers buy, that they exchange money for, the thing that we create perceived value of, and the entire experience that we create for our customers, which creates the profits for the business that can be reinvested in the profit and provide the investors with a return on their investment so they stay invested in the business. As profits grow, we can hire more people, we can serve more customers, we can create more products, we can in turn grow the profits so that we can continue this continuous cycle, this loop of what comprises a business. And again, I think it's important for us to truly define what makes up a business so that we can make better decisions and communicate those decisions better. Because we want to make sure that the people in the business are happy making the product, that the product is making our customers happy, and we need to make sure that the business is profitable, because if it's not, it's going to cease to exist. So when we make decisions, we need to be able to make decisions in a way that equally support the three P's of the business. Now, running a business is going to require us to make those decisions. And that's essentially what a boss is. If we want to be the best boss ever, we want to be able to make decisions that positively impact all three P's of the business. Now, sometimes people actually have a negative, disparaging view of the word boss, and I honestly have no idea why. I think because they've had some bad bosses, but the reality is, when I've got a great boss, I tell him, man, you are a great boss. I've worked for some bad bosses, but I've also had some pretty darn great ones. And I have always strived to be a great boss. I like when people call me boss. especially when it's given in endearing respect, because they know that I'm there to support them as well as help the business be successful. So, what does it mean to be a great boss? Well, it means that we have to be both a capable leader and a good manager. Well, again, sometimes if any of you spend any time on LinkedIn, you'll see some posts sometime, something like be a leader, not a manager, or some kind of crap like that. The reality is, if we want to be a great boss, we have to be both a great leader and a great manager. What do I mean, a great leader and a great manager? Well, they're two different sides of the same coin, or they're two components of what makes up a great boss that supports the three P's of the business. So, to be a great boss, we have to be both a great leader and a great manager. So, what do I mean by this? Well, maybe it's easiest if I describe it by telling a story. Once upon a time, there were two farmers, Larry and Mike. Now, Larry, this guy was a great leader, man. He had a true sense of purpose in how he ran his farm and why he ran his farm. He started his farm because he wanted to create food abundance to serve his local community. Larry led his farm with purpose. Not only that, Larry had a great understanding of human principles, of principles of human nature, why we do what we do. He really truly tried to lead people with a deep understanding of the fact that people don't like to be lied to. Nobody likes to be stolen from. Nobody likes to be cheated. In addition to that, Larry truly understood that people want to be appreciated, that incentives drive human behavior. And he considered that as he was trying to lead his farm and create the vision for his farm. In addition to that, Larry also led with a true sense of progress, that he knew he was going to have to make changes to the way he did his business in order for it to improve, that he was going to have to run his farm better every single day than the day before, and he needed to find ways to celebrate progress along the way. He needed to innovate, to improve, so he could celebrate those improvements. Larry embraced what would be called a growth mindset because he celebrated progress. He led with a true sense of an understanding of why he built the farm, purpose, an understanding of human principles and the way that he interacted with people, and with this sense of progress, this growth mindset. Now, Mike, on the other hand, this guy was a brilliant manager, man. He put this detailed planning into how he was going to strategically operate his farm. He built these amazing plans for every aspect of his business. Not only that, but Mike ensured that he created processes so that people working with him on his farm could do their job in alignment with the plans that he created. He was not only a great planner, but he also made sure that there was clearly documented processes to provide expectations for the people on what is to be done. He had processes for how the tractors could go through the fields, when certain crops should get picked. Everything was a clear operating system. And lastly, Mike, this guy made sure that he had the right performance metrics in place to measure the effectiveness of how well those processes were working in alignment with his farm. He had this great scorecard that got published every day to show the growth rates, how much water had been used the previous day for the different types of crops on his field. So he was properly measuring the yield. Mike had it nailed down from a performance measurement standpoint. So he had the right planning, the right processes, and good performance measurements. Now, here's the problem. Both Larry and Mike's farms failed. You see, while Larry was this amazing leader, he led with this sense of purpose and principles and progress. He had none of Mike's management talents. He didn't plan anything. He had no documented processes. Everything was in his head and everybody just did it their own way. And he measured nothing, no performance measurements whatsoever. And Mike, well, this guy had no leadership capabilities. He didn't have any purpose to his farm. He just thought he could make some money. He didn't have any understanding of how to communicate effectively with people and to understand human principles. And he just thought his way was the best and he wasn't willing to think about improving. He had what one would call a fixed mindset, no sense of progress. The reality is, if we want our businesses to be successful, we have to be both Larry and Mike every day. We need to have that combination of being both a great leader and a great manager. Maybe Larry and Mike would have made good business partners if they had an alignment of vision. But the reality is, unless we can bring both leadership and management talents to being the boss that supports the business, our businesses are not likely going to be successful. I tell this story to lead into this definition that I worked on to really define what a great boss is. This definition that I've come up with is simply a great boss is one who confidently makes and clearly communicates informed and accountable decisions that support each of the three P's of business. Makes and clearly communicates informed and accountable decisions that support each of the three P's of business. In other words, be a good leader and manager that supports the people, the product, and the profit in the business. So let's talk about these three P's of leadership for just a second. We, we're going to cover it again, but really, when we talk about purpose, it is this understanding of our why that leads how we will then turn that into plans so we can define a mission and a vision for what our business is going to become. A mission being how we're going to work towards that purpose, and the vision being what it is that we're planning to create with our business, but built upon this understanding of our purpose, of our why. That if we build our business with that sense of purpose, that we're of whatever it is that's important to us, that drives us, why we created our products, why we created this business, and align our planning with that purpose, it's going to make it that much stronger, make those plans so much more effective. When I'm talking about human principles, I am talking about these universal, never changing principles in human nature, things that have been true for thousands of years about the way that people interact with each other. The reality is, nobody does like to be lied to. No one likes to be stolen from. No one likes to be cheated. And we are driven by incentives, and we also truly value social connection, developing relationships with other people. That is an important part, that we want appreciation and recognition from the people that we interact with. We want to strengthen those relationships. These are human principles that are universally true, and they need to guide the way that we do our business. And lastly, this sense of progress, this growth mindset, it's important. It's what drives innovation. It's why capitalism is a system that works. I am a devout capitalist because I truly believe that commerce, that business is the foundation of civilized society. It's what drives innovation. It's what creates abundance. It's what creates this comfort so that we're in this nicely heated building even when it's cold outside, or why it's nicely air conditioned when it's warm outside. That why we have all the comforts, pretty much the best comforts that man has ever had, is because of this continuous progressive innovation that's driven by the businesses that we lead. And that we know that in order to improve, we need to change. So we embrace change, we embrace innovation, continuously are striving to grow and improve. Combine that with the three P's of management, that's what helps makes us become a boss. So I want to talk a little bit more about these three P's of management. First one being planning. Planning is how we strategically prepare ourselves to make decisions that positively impact the three P's of the business. The processes, as mentioned, these are our standard operating practices, right? Our standard operating procedures, pick your word, but our SOPs that are aligned with the plans that are going to help us work towards the achievement of our goals, of whatever our unique vision of success is for our business. And lastly, yeah, we got to have good performance measurements in place, because those performance measurements, the data from those performance measurements, or they're going to allow us to make more informed decisions in the future. So the better our data, the better our decisions. So the better we measure the performance of the business, the performance of our processes, the more capable we will be to be able to make more effective, more informed decisions. I'm going to start with this quick quote from Drucker just to drive home the point. If you don't know who Peter Drucker is, he's truly the father of modern leadership and management. Became famous throughout the 50s and 60s uh, as a bit of a thought leader. He coined the term knowledge workers as we transition from traditional agricultural and manufacturing jobs into thinking jobs. Drucker is the one that coined the term knowledge workers. He also created the concept of management by objectives that laid the foundation for setting things like the right goal setting frameworks that have now probably been best articulated in the form of OKRs or just plain SMART goals. But at the end of the day, the reality is you're not going to be successful unless you make decisions, unless you learn the skills necessary to make the most effective decisions to support the three P's of your business. I'm going to remind you of that quote one more time. A great boss is one who confidently makes and then clearly communicates informed and accountable decisions that support each of the three P's of business. So, how do you make informed and accountable decisions? Well, I think there is that alignment, right? Our sense of purpose, our why, that we can then translate into how we're doing it, the mission and the vision, what we want to accomplish, this grand goal, right? But then first we need to actually build that bridge, that plan. We got to use our planning skills to get where we want to go. Well, to define our current reality and what the gap is between where we're at and versus where we want to go, one of the most effective tools that I've ever used, and it's a pretty common one, and one of the things that you might see throughout this presentation is you're like, Brent, you're just telling me a lot of things. This is just common sense. And the reality is, common sense isn't that common. Famous quote from famous French philosopher Voltaire: common sense is not so common. Often repeated by Charlie Munger, who is Warren Buffett's business partner and largely the primary contributor to the success of Berkshire Hathaway. So one of these common decision-making tools to help us better assess our current reality so that we can build the foundation of that bridge to get us from where we are to where we want to go is something simple like a SWOT analysis. Now, anybody here who's been through some form of business training has probably seen a SWOT analysis, but that doesn't mean that we always fill it out the right way. If you haven't used a SWOT analysis before, and I'm sure you get the gist of it here, it's basically strengths are the things that our business is currently good at. The things that we have in our business that support the three P's of the business, the people, the product, and the profit, that make up our strengths, the things in our business that we are good at. Our weaknesses are the things that we know that we are aware of that we're not so good at, that we have an awareness, the things that we know we're not so good at. So we start and create that list of our strengths and weaknesses. Opportunities and threats, well, these are things external to our business that we should be aware of because they could help or hurt us in the future. Opportunities are things that we should be aware of external to our business that could potentially help us in the future, whereas threats are those external factors that could potentially harm us in the future. Whenever I'm trying to start a planning exercise, and even if it's a quick decision, the reality is, even when I'm making quick decisions, I'm essentially running a quick SWOT analysis through my head. If I'm making a decision on whether or not I need another coffee for the day, I'm actually kind of doing a quick little SWOT analysis in my head, right? Oh yeah, a little bit more caffeine. I might be a little bit more sharper. I don't need any more coffee because I don't need to go to the bathroom all day, and too much caffeine can definitely wire you up, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm basically doing this little mini SWOT analysis anytime I'm making any decision. I want to assess the current reality of the situation. Where do I want to be? I need to know where I am today if I want to get where I'm going. And a SWOT analysis, assessing our strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, is a great way to start. Now, after we do a SWOT analysis, we're going to identify a bunch of weaknesses and maybe some threats and build upon our strengths and build upon our opportunities. But the reality is we can't do everything. Especially if we're assessing the entirety of our business or maybe just our marketing plan, right? We're still not going to be able to do everything. we're not going to be able to work on every problem. So the first thing that I need to do is I need to prioritize the things that I should focus on. See, people think focus means saying yes to the thing you've got to focus on. But this quote from Steve Jobs, that's not what it means at all. It means saying no to the 100 other good ideas that there are. Warren Buffett said this very similarly. The difference between successful people and really successful people is they say no to almost everything. So, how do you make sure that you're saying no to the right things? Well, I like to use a simple prioritization grid. I like to prioritize the things that I think I should be working on in alignment with my long term goal against this simple matrix. What's going to have the greatest impact, positive impact as it relates to the three P's of the business? What's going to have the greatest impact for the happiness of my people, for the quality of my product for my customers, and for the profitability of my business? What's going to have the greatest impact, and what is the easiest to implement? And we're not trying to make this more complicated than it needs to be, folks. If I've got a list of 10 things I got to work on, 10 things that I identified as weaknesses that I need to try to create some plans to improve upon, well, I'm going to slap them on this grid. And I'm going to pick the one that is in the furthest top right hand corner, the one that's going to be the easiest to do, that has the greatest impact. And then that allows me to prioritize 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which problems I want to work on. Once I've identified the biggest problem, though, well, then before I start throwing solutions at the wall and just start jumping to action, and I want to make it actionable, I want to create a plan that's actionable, but I want to make sure that it's a plan that is moving in the right direction. And the best way to do that is to make sure that, especially if I'm trying to work on a problem, that I actually understand the root cause. A lot of the time, and this happens in all aspects of our life, but it definitely happens in business, is when people start slapping solutions against the wall and just trying anything that's going to stick, right? You've heard that silly statement sometimes. The problem here, though, is that most people don't take this one extra step, and that is to do something just called cause and effect analysis, or root cause analysis. And the best way that I know to get to root cause is this visualized diagram of a fishbone, right? Business stuff in the business, as far as what's impacting the people, the product, and profit, usually comes down to the people, whether they're using the right methods, the processes that have been outlined, whether they have access to the right materials or equipment, technology, and maybe there's an environmental impact. But what I'm really trying to do is, okay, this is the weakness. And then I'm going to ask why 5 times. Why is this problem exist? Why is this a weakness? Why? Because if I ask 5 whys, right? We're kind of acting like that little kid. But if we ask why 5 times, we're going to identify why this thing is a weakness, why it's broken, why is it a threat? Why is going to help us identify the true root cause of the problem so that we can start to work on then coming up with the solutions. If we really understand the root cause, the more clear our solution is going to be, the more effective the solution is going to be, the better our decisions are going to be. Last step, well, I need to make sure that the goal that I've actually set has been specified properly. It's not just some ambitious, vague vision. I want to make sure that my goal has been clearly defined. But defining the problem in our current reality and understanding the prioritization of what we really need to work on, and then truly understanding the root cause of things helps us set more effective goals. As I said, there's a famous goal setting framework called objectives and key results. And we could turn that into a whole course on how to set good OKRs. But I really do like this simple definition of a SMART goal. A SMART goal being that when we actually write our goal down, we want to make sure that our goal is specific, that our goal truly says exactly what we want to accomplish, that it is measurable, that it is objectively measurable, that we can put a number to it to measure our progress as we march towards that goal. When we set goals, we should set attainable goals. They can be stretch, but they definitely should be attainable. There's no point in setting goals that are never, ever, ever possible of achievement. They should definitely be relevant to the root cause of the real problem of the current reality that we're trying to work from. They need to be relevant to what we're working towards, and they should be time bound with a clear goal that was based on a deep understanding of our current reality, prioritized for the things that are most important, with a true understanding of the root cause. We can ensure that we have a properly clarified, specified, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound goal. So now we can come up with the actions necessary to work towards that goal. And then I'd say, we do that same matrix, right? We do that same impact versus easiness when it comes to our solutioning. We might brainstorm. We're going to say we got to do these 10 things. And to help us put them in the right order of priority, we can again use the impact and easiness matrix to help us prioritize the actions that are going to lead us towards the achievement of our goal. The way I've trying to sum this all up then is that we then can take our goal and turn them into processes, and then the performance measurements for each of the three groups of our business: the people, the product, and the profit. The people working in business, the product we create for an experience we create for our customers, and the profits that fuel the continuous growth of the business. We need to make sure that our plans are equally supporting our people, our product, and profit, that those plans are translated into processes to support our people, product, and profit, and that we have the right performance metrics for our business, the right KPIs, the right way to measure the success for our people, product, and profit, because those measurements are going to become valuable to measure our progress of our processes, help identify when we go off track and we need to adjust the plans, and we need to do that SWOT analysis again and get to the root cause of the problem, and then reprioritize our actions in alignment with our goals. In other words, by using these simple tools of defining where we're at today, prioritizing what we really need to work on, making sure that we are not treating symptoms, but truly getting to root cause, using that fishbone diagram that's called an Ishikawa diagram if you want to get fancy about it. And then making sure that our goals are truly specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time bound, and then prioritize the actions towards the achievement. We can move towards making better decisions to support the success of our business. We can live up to this definition of being a great boss. We can confidently make informed and accountable decisions supporting each of the three P's of the business. But as I said at the beginning, most business failures come down to two reasons. One, making great decisions, making the right decisions. The other half of that is communication. We have to be good at communicating in business, whether we're talking to our employees, whether we're talking to our customers, whether we're talking to our business partners or our investors. We need to be able to communicate effectively. I like to quote Warren Buffett a lot. Why? The guy built $1 trillion plus company based on investing correctly in good businesses. He understands good business. He's the most successful investor of all time. So I like to quote him. And to quote Warren Buffett, it's a story. He was at I think it was Stanford University a few years back, and he was addressing the business class, and it was the graduating business class, and he said to the business class, "I'd offer any one of you $50,000 to have 10% of your future earnings right here, right now. Come see me. However, if you can be great at speaking, if you can be fantastic at the skills of being able to speak in public with other people, if you are great at public speaking, I double it. I pay you $100,000." What Warren Buffett said is the skills of being able to speak effectively will increase your value as an individual by at least 50%, by at least 50%. And especially in the world of business, yes, you need to be able to communicate effectively. And the way that I talk about communicating in business, especially communicating decisions in business, I actually like to use the word coaching. Now, Coaching is, again, one of those words that I think gets misinterpreted. And when I talk about coaching, yeah, there's lots of different types of coaching. Of course, there's coaching in sports. And then even within a business context, there's all sorts of forms of different coaching. The reality is, I actually consider every conversation in business a form of coaching. Because when I'm talking to a potential new hire and I'm hiring somebody, I'm coaching him to understand what it would be like to set expectations of what it would be like to work here to make sure that it's going to be a good fit for him working in my business. When I give an employee his annual evaluation, I'm giving a summarized piece of feedback of his performance over a period of time. When I'm training new information or I'm delegating, it's essentially coaching. Or when I'm just coaching them, performance coaching to help them do their job better. But the reality is, I think that translates to the same when I'm having customer conversations. Because when I'm talking to a customer, I'm essentially coaching them to understand the perceived value of the product. I'm coaching to try to get that customer to buy my product, to understand why why he should give me money because of this perceived value that my product creates for him. And even when I am talking to investors or potential investors who want to invest or who I want to invest in my business, I'm essentially coaching them to understand the potential return on their investment of the future earnings of my business, the future potential earnings of my business. I'm coaching that person because I want them to invest in my business. To support this, let me share with you the definition of coaching that I've worked on and come up with. And you're going to ask, Brent, why are we even listening to you and why do we care about your definitions? Well, when it really comes down to it, I spent a lot of my career coaching people. I managed teams in excess of 4,000 people for well over a decade. The reality is, I've had, I don't know, 35,000 people work for me at some point in time. I've had over 1,500 people in leadership positions reporting to me over some period of time. The, when I used to travel, I had offices all around the globe. And when I used to travel to these various offices, because that's what I did, what I was really doing is I was going there to teach my leaders. So I've been teaching leaders for 20 years, for 20 plus years. I've been teaching leaders, and the thing that I've been continuously keep teaching people for the last 25 years ultimately comes down to how to coach effectively. I have evaluated literally tens of thousands of coaching sessions delivered by other people. I evaluate those coaching sessions to see what has worked and what didn't work and identify what about the coaching could be improved. And in all of those evaluations of other people's coaching sessions, I strive to come up with a better definition of what coaching really is. And my definition of coaching is that we are working to inform, influence, and inspire the behavior of other people toward the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. A worthy ideal meaning something that they actually is important to them, right? But I'm working to inform them, right? What don't they know, right? Because we don't know what we don't know. Influence their behavior in a positive manner towards achievement of this worthy ideal, but inspire them to want to do it themselves, right? Inform them, fill in the gaps of what they don't know, influence their behavior in a positive way towards their worthy ideal, but inspire them to want to take that action themselves. That to me is that definition of coaching. Whether I'm talking to an employee, whether I am talking to a customer, or whether I am talking to an investor, I'm looking to inform, influence, and inspire the behavior. If I'm talking to an employee, I'm trying to help them grow and improve, to be better at their job. If I'm talking to a customer, obviously I want him to make sure that he's getting the perceived value out of my product and that he keeps buying it. And if I'm talking to an investor, I'm trying to inspire his confidence in the potential future earnings of my business. But when I'm having these conversations in business, the skill of communicating the good decisions I've made, right? Then I'm working towards providing effective coaching, whether it's an employee, whether it's a customer, whether it's an investor. I'm trying to provide and communicate effective decisions that support the three P's of the business. So I want to talk about this in a little bit more detail because there is a system to it that I found that has worked. a system to coaching, again, that it universally works, whether it's coaching an employee, coaching a customer, coaching an investor, that works to help support the business. And it starts with preparing. It starts with being prepared to have that conversation. What do I mean by prepared? Well, you may have heard this statement, but the key to public speaking is know your audience, right? The key to communicating anything is know your audience. So before having a conversation with people, what do you know about them? Know as much about them as you possibly can, right? We want to know what we want to know. And if we don't know anything about them, then we're probably going to start with questions. We're not going to jump into shoving solutions down somebody's throat if we don't know what's important to them, if we don't know what problems they're having. I like to steal this quote from General Douglas MacArthur. Why? You know what? General Douglas MacArthur was famous because he is the guy responsible for liberating the Philippines Islands from the Japanese during World War II. He was a famous World War II general, and he was responsible for getting the Japanese out of the Philippines and giving the Philippines people back their freedom from the Japanese. And maybe it's just true, a little close to my heart. I spent a lot of time in the Philippines over the last 20 years. My first trip there was in 2005, and I've been back and forth over 60 times. I would travel there anywhere up to 4 to 6 times a year, 2 weeks at a time, and I spent a lot of time over there as I was helping support my teams and teaching my leaders how to be more effective in their roles. But preparedness is the key to success and victory. We need to know who we're going to be speaking to before we try to coach, before we try to inform, influence, and inspire the behavior of people. And if we don't know anything, we need to probe to understand a little bit more about them. The second step to communicating effectively, to coaching effectively, the second P of good coaching, because of course there's 3 P's of coaching. We start with prepare, but then we have to actually be good at the presenting part, right? Like if we're coaching an employee to grow and improve, we want to know who the employee is and what's important to them. But we also should probably evaluate their work so that we can give them some good feedback that's meaningful, that helps them grow and improve. If we're coaching a customer, we should know everything. We should refresh ourselves on everything we know about that customer. If they've been a customer for a while, we should know what they've bought from us previously. And if we don't, we should ask questions to understand what kind of problems they are having that we can help them with. Same goes for an investor, right? So this, when it comes to presenting though, I want to talk about 3 very specific skills of presenting. 1, lead with your point. What is the point of the communication that you're having? What is the point of the coaching? What is the point of the presentation? What is the point of what you're talking about? And the point should translate to what's in it for them with it. What's in it for them? What's in it for them? Because according to Dale Carnegie and pretty much every successful person that has helped people lead better businesses. And if you don't know who Dale Carnegie is, he's famous for a book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, written in 1937. It's probably the most often quoted favorite book on leadership, on management, on business, on relationships in business. The only way on earth to influence other people is to talk about what they want and show them how to get it. Talk about what they want and show them how to get it. Which means before we coach anybody, yes, we should be prepared. We should know our audience, right? We should know who we're coaching, whether it's the customer, whether it's the employee, whether it's the investor. But we have to think about starting and ending and making sure that the point of the conversation is focused on what they want, what's in it for them. This aligns with one other very famous quote. I mentioned Charlie Munger, if you're not familiar with him. He was Warren Buffett's partner. And if you listen to any public speech by Warren Buffett, he'll usually mention Charlie. Why? Because Charlie was his business partner for 50 years. And he was truly integral to the success of Berkshire Hathaway. He is the one that helped Warren make all the right investment decisions. And Charlie Munger's famous quote that I like to use all the time: show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome. Another famous investor, Bill Ackman, he owns an investment fund. He just says it all the time as well. Incentives drive all human behaviors. Incentives drive all human behavior. What's in it for them? Talk about what they want. It needs to be the point of any coaching. So make sure before you coach that you know that what your point is, and whatever you're trying to influence, you need to be talking from a perspective of what's in it for them. What's the incentive for them to do this thing? And then we should practice. Now, I don't even know if for sure if this quote that's attributed to Steve Jobs was ever actually said by Steve Jobs. I've heard it said in similar ways. I've heard it said by Michael Jordan. The public praises people for what they practice in private. The public praises people for what they practice in private. If you want to be good at presenting coaching, if you want to be good at influencing other people, if you want to be good at informing other people, if you want to be good at inspiring people, if you want customers to buy, if you want investors to invest, if you want employees to grow and improve, you need to get good at speaking, which means you need to practice. Heck, if I'm coming up for a big presentation, I record it and then I watch it back and I criticize myself and I look for feedback. Heck, sometimes I'll send it to a close friend who's going to evaluate it and give me some feedback, somebody I trust who will tell me the truth. Maybe you don't like to record yourself. Practice it in a mirror. Maybe you haven't had real opportunities. Go join Toastmasters. Watch YouTube videos on how to speak more effectively. But if you want to communicate effectively, and we know it's an essential skill in business because we know that the two most common things that cause failures in business are making bad decisions and not communicating effectively. Bad communication, bad decisions. So we need to be good at communication. So we should practice it. Practice is what makes progress happen. No such thing as perfect, but practice makes progress happen. It helps us grow and improve and get better and better and better the more we do it. The third part of presenting effectively in coaching, the third P of presenting that I want to talk to you about is the importance of presenting with presence. Now, when it comes to presenting with presence, yeah, was I in Toastmasters for a while, and have I practiced? Part of my job actually, like I've had to deliver presentations to the C-suite of Fortune 100 companies, right? I have presented to hundreds of employees on countless number of times, and yes, these are all qualities of a good manner of speech, of being able to speak in a way that can positively inform, influence, and inspire people. But you do need to speak with clarity. Use words people understand. Make sure that you enunciate them in a way that they are understandable. Make eye contact with people. Look them in the eye. Make sure your facial expressions match whatever it is you're saying. Same with your body language. It should all be in alignment with what you're trying to communicate, in alignment with that point of what's in it for that. Use your tone of voice appropriately. If you're talking about something serious, use a lower tone. If you're talking about something you want to get people excited about, right? Make sure your tone of voice matches. And yes, make sure that there's vocal variety. It shouldn't be all at the same pitch, right? We want to have some variety to our speech to make sure that our audience is engaged, which leads me to the last and probably without question most important part about what it means to present with presence is being aware of your audience, being aware of their reactions. And if we're having a one-on-one communication, yes, all of these things are still important, especially the audience awareness. And how do you exhibit presence in a one-on-one conversation? Well, use your most valuable sense, not how you talk, but how you listen, right? Presenting with presence, presenting with presence means being present, being present. You have to be present in the moment. You need to be listening with all of your body to your audience. And if it's a presentation to one, if you're having a one-on-one conversation with somebody, that means you should be listening more than you're talking. You need to make sure that if you want to present with presence, that you are present. The three P's of presenting effectively, to coach effectively, One, we clarify that point. What's in it for them? Two, we practice getting good at this whole communicating thing. And when we do present, we present with presence. We are present with presence by being present and creating this alignment of our senses with the point that we're trying to illustrate. That's what makes up the first of the two P's of coaching effectively, that we prepare effectively for whoever we're talking to, and we present in a way that has clarity of what's in it for them, what's the point, what's in it for them, that we've practiced, and we present with presence. So what is the third? What is the third P? What is this final P that makes up this pyramid that supports this successful business where we make good decisions and communicate those decisions? To do that, I'm going to steal this quote from William James. You might not know who William James is. He's really old. Well, he died a long time ago. But he was actually the very first American, quote unquote, psychologist. He taught psychology. He was the first professor of psychology. He was a philosopher and the first American true psychologist. In other words, this guy studied human nature. That's all he did his entire life. And this quote, the deepest principle in human nature is the craving to be appreciated. Remember, when we talk about human principles, we're social animals. That means that we crave the appreciation of others. The deepest principle in human nature is the craving to be appreciated. So how do we make sure that we make people feel appreciated? Because remember, we want to inform, right? Fill in the gaps of what they don't know. When we're talking to customers, make sure they understand the perceived value of our product. If we're talking to employees, giving them feedback about their job performance that they weren't aware of. If we're talking to investors, making sure that we fill in the gaps of what they don't know about the future potential of their earnings, right? And that we demonstrate what's in it for them when we present it, and we listen when we're talking to them with our bodies and our minds. But then in order to actually inspire them to want to do this thing on their own, we got to do one more thing. And that is, once we've presented and we've influenced their behavior in a positive way, and they've made that decision to buy, or they made that decision to invest, or the employee did the job the better way that helped them grow and improve, when we catch them doing it right, we need to give them praise. When we catch them doing it right, we need to give them praise. When we catch them doing it right, when the customer buys our product, we need to give them praise for doing so. When they realize the perceived value of our product, when we coach the employee and they get better at their job, we need to catch them doing it right so we can catch them, so that we can give them good praise because they did their job better before the coaching. And when an investor invests, of course, we need to give them praise for making that informed decision that is good for them and good for us. This truly is the cornerstone of how to communicate effectively, to communicate those great decisions that we made using our leadership and management skills, of communicating in a way that equally supports the people in the business, the product, and the profitability of the business. Catching people doing it right and offering well-deserved and meaningful praise is the cornerstone of success that makes up this business success pyramid. It's so fundamentally important. It's the title of the book that I wrote on the subject of coaching. When we coach people, we need to make sure that we catch people doing it right and give them the right praise. You see, too often, I think, we think that we need to, show appreciation, recognition, be nice for the sake of being nice. That's not what I talk about when I'm talking about giving praise. What I'm talking about is we actually should save the praise for when people actually enact the behavior that is towards the progressive realization of that worthy ideal. Don't waste praise when they didn't. Don't waste praise just because they showed up. Don't waste praise because just for the sake of trying to be nice. That does nothing to positively support the business. That does nothing to make people truly feel valued and appreciated. Do you appreciate when you get a participation trophy for just showing up? No. Do you appreciate when somebody just calls you a rock star because you happen to be working at a company for the last 3 weeks? No. Do you appreciate when somebody actually recognizes when you contributed significant effort and you made a significant accomplishment that had a positive impact towards the achievement of some worthy ideal? Hell yes. Use your praise effectively to catch people doing it right when the praise is meaningful. And that's the point. But how should we offer praise the right way? How do we then not only catch them doing it right, how can we give praise that's memorable? How do we give praise that truly creates appreciation? Well, that's that next step. And I'm going to use a plant analogy here. You see, just like a plant, you need to plant the plant, you need to put the plant in a precise location where it gets the optimal amount of sunlight. Otherwise, it ain't going to grow, right? Well, when we're giving praise, we need to be precise about our praise. The person we're giving praise to needs to know exactly what behavior they're exhibiting that we are giving them praise for. Not some generic, great job, Timmy. That doesn't mean anything. Versus, Tim, you did such a good job putting together that presentation. I can't believe the amount of effort that you must have put into to make it look so beautiful. That's awesome. Now Tim has no misunderstanding about what he's getting praised for. When we give praise, we need to be precise. Two, we need to make it personal. Just like different plants require different amounts of water, different plants require different forms of nutrients. We want to make sure that when we give praise to people, that we make it personal. We make it personal. We should remind them of what was in it for them. Congratulate them because of how it's helping them make progress towards the achievement of that worthy ideal that was important to them. What's in it for them? And maybe even share a little bit about how good it made us feel to observe it, how good it made us feel to catch them doing it right, how good it made us feel to support them, right? So when we give our praise, we want to make sure that it's precise, personal, and just like a plant, if we wait too long to water our plants, they will wither away. And praise fades, man. If we delay the praise, it's not going to be as meaningful if we deliver it when we observed the person doing it right. We shouldn't delay our praise. We should offer our praise promptly so the person feels it. I love when people wish me a happy birthday, but I'll tell you what, I much prefer the happy birthday wishes I receive on the morning of my birthday than the ones that I get 3 weeks later, right? It's not that I don't appreciate the belated birthdays, but I much more appreciate the ones that were delivered promptly. Well, just like when somebody does a great job that you helped coach them towards doing, or somebody customer buys a product, you shouldn't be offering them praise so long ago they barely remember what the heck you're talking about. Offer your praise promptly. So if we want our praise to have the impact we hope it has, to actually inspire the behavior of people so that they want to do it again and again and again on their own, then we need to make sure that when we do catch them doing it right, when we give them praise, it should be precise, personal, and prompt so that we can live up to this definition of coaching and truly inform, influence, and inspire the behavior of other people toward the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. That we can fill out this pyramid of business success where we support the 3 P's of the business, the people, the product, and profit, with good leadership and good management, making good decisions, and then communicating those decisions through great coaching that we prepared for, that we presented well, and then we followed up to catch them doing it right, and we delivered them good praise. And if we do all of these things with persistence, then we can ensure that we don't become part of that 90% statistic of failed businesses. If we do all of these things with persistence and we make these great decisions and communicate these informed and accountable decisions that support each of the 3 P's of the business, and we deliver coaching in a way that informs, influences, inspires the behavior of other people toward the progressive realization of a worthy ideal, then we are going to make better decisions and we're going to communicate those decisions more effectively. And we can avoid all of these common reasons for startup failure because we made those informed and accountable decisions, and we communicated those decisions more effectively so that these do not become problems, and so that we ultimately can move towards that whole ideal, which is this quote that I like from Robin Sharma. The business of business is relationships. The business of life is human connection. That we can strengthen the connection with the people we work with, the people in the business, strengthen the connection with our customers, the people who buy our product, and strengthen the connection with our investors, the people who invest in our business and depend and rely upon our profits. Robin Sharma is a Canadian writer, motivational speaker, and former lawyer who wrote The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. I love this quote because the reality is, when I think about why I'm in business, why I care to support businesses, yes, do I truly believe that businesses are the source of all abundance, innovation, and progress that we've made in society? I sure do. But that also, it really is the means by which we strengthen that connection between each other, that it is the connections, that the relationships that we build that makes a difference. Please, I encourage you to make more informed decisions, to learn how to communicate those decisions. It is about continuous learning, it's about continuous innovation so that we can make and build better connections with the people that we work with the people that we spend so much time with as we're trying to build these wonderful, successful businesses. If you'd like to expand more on the subject of coaching specifically, I wrote a book. It's here. You can find it on Amazon. If you prefer on Audible, it's on Audible. And I go into detail on the entire system of coaching to ensure we get to that point where we can catch people doing it right so that you can offer effective praise. And I thank you very, very much. And I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you.